Hello everybody, this is Gareth Cahoon Speaks back here with another video. I'd like you to hit the subscribe bar or give me the notification bell to be notified when I next post my next video, or else you can give me a thumbs up if you like the video. And other ways that you can follow me is by my website, which is www.garethcahoon.co.uk, or if you like my ministry and would like to help fund it, it's PayPal garethcahoon3@gmail.com. Thank you very much for anything you can donate for my ministry. These ones today is about Israel and how God's heart is for them, and just imagine God, they're suffering so much for every one of his little children, and he has so much love for them and compassion that he went to the cross. Suffered and rose from the dead on the third day, and now he's sitting at the right hand of the Father, pleading our cause. So the first headline is Israel and the US seek to abolish UN peacekeeping mission in Lebanon over failure to confront Hezbollah. Israel and the US have informed members of the UN Security Council that they opposed another automatic extension of the mandate of the United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon, UNIFIL, which is scheduled for assessment in a discussion later in August. Israel has long criticised the peacekeeping force for failing to confront the terror group which it entrenched itself in southern Lebanon over decades without the UN force sounding the alarm or confronting the terror group. Israel and the US are now trying to convince the UNSC members to support substantial changes to UNIFIL's mandate or to abolish it completely, in light of its prolonged failure to prevent Hezbollah's infiltration into South Lebanon and to enforce the Lebanese government's sovereignty in the area, as informed sources told the Jerusalem Post. UNIFIL is the UN's fifth largest force with over 10,000 troops and among its most expensive, with a 2024 budget over $580 million, which rises annually. Hello Thomas, nice to meet you. Hello Dinor. According to the Post, Israel and the US are advocating to either close down the force or to extend its mandate for another year, with a clear and narrowly defined mission to transfer full security responsibility to the Lebanese armed forces. This would assist the US led to pressure the Lebanese government to take full responsibility over its territory, which must eventually include the disarmament of Hezbollah. The Lebanese government's decision last week to begin disarming Hezbollah only proves that this may be a once in a generation moment to act against the organisation, as Israel's official told the Post. In light of the joint campaign, France will present its own initiative to extend its mandate for another year before its orderly dismantlement and withdrawal from South Lebanon, which the Post reported could be endorsed by the UN Security Council. UNIFIL provides little return on its investment. Its only area of added value hosted the UNLE deconfliction mechanism has been superseded by the ceasefire oversight committee, which is also actively working to degrade Hezbollah, said David Dowd, senior fellow at the Foundation for Freedom of Democracies. The largest UK aliyah in 15 years. 44 British Jews moved to Israel on ICJ-sponsored flight last week. This is serious shock. So it is that 44 Jewish people have left Britain. I am proud to be British. But the fact that pro-Palestinian supporters have drove these people out is just a desecration of British values, and honestly we have expelled the Jews 3 times in our history, and it took Oliver Cromwell to bring them back. And all I can say is that Britain will be worse off with these 44 Jewish people and their families leaving. British Jews are apparently feeling the pressure to move to the Jewish state amid rising anti-Semitism and growing hostility towards the Jewish community in the United Kingdom. This breaks my heart. Last week, 44 British Jews chose to leave their homes and resettle in Israel with assistance from the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem, ICEJ. The Aliyah flight, organised by the Jewish Agency for Israel, was funded by donors of the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem, and this represents the largest group of Jewish people immigrating from the UK for 15 years, according to David Parsons, ICEJ Senior Vice President. The 44 British Jews arrived at Ben Gurion International Airport near Tel Aviv last Thursday. As new immigrants, Olim Hadashim, with assistance bringing them home to Israel, ranging from babies to the elderly. All generations were part of the growing exodus of England, driven by steady rise of anti-Semitism all across the UK, and the US, but we're specifically talking about the UK at the moment. The war, precipitated by a mass massacre on October 7th, 2023, has led to such extreme levels of anti-Semitism that a total of 676 British Jews decided to emigrate to Israel, make Aliyah in 2024, completed to 336 in 2023, according to ICJ. In total, at least 45,000 Jews have made Aliyah to Israel from countries worldwide since the Gaza war began. More than 5,200 of whom have been held home on flights held home on flights sponsored by the Christian organization. It appears to have become more accepted in the UK that Israel is committing genocide, with huge pro-Palestinian protests and marches brimming with hostility against Israel most every weekend, and anti-Israel Semitism running high. Israel is routinely conflated with the Jewish community and experiences regular attacks as a result. Last week, the Community Secretary Trust CST reported 1,521 anti-Semitic incidents in the UK between January and June 2025, one of the most predominant being the call for death to the IDF chanting from the stage from the Glastonbury Music Festival in June and broadcast without interruption by the BBC. In general, police have been slow to protest In general, police have been slow to protect Jewish sites and buildings, such as synagogues and schools, from the intimidating marches, instead trying to contain people who are visibly Jewish or openly supportive of Israel, concerned that their presence could cause a disturbance, even arresting and detaining them at times. The British organisation Campaign Against Anti-Semitism recently posted a video on their social media asking Londoners if they would be willing to wear a t-shirt declaring "I love my Jewish friends." One lady said she was sympathetic to the Jews, and when asked if she was aware of the high levels of anti-Semitism in the UK, she responded, "I am, yes," adding, "But the Jewish question, it thought, had been forgotten years ago, and now it's come back more than it has been before in my life." So that's shocking. Nicole Yoder, ICJ Vice President for Aid and Aliyah, expressed her feelings about the significance of the transition. It was a special and moving moment to participate in the flight and brought the largest Aliyah group from Britain in more than a decade, she said, after accompanying the British group of their way to Israel, seeing their families step off that plane full of hope for a new life in their ancestral homeland. It was incredibly inspiring. Work with the Jewish Agency, another ICJ, has helped 190,000 Jews to make Aliyah since it established in 1980. Our support of Aliyah from Britain and many other countries is meant to express our solidarity with the Jewish people in this difficult time they currently are facing worldwide due to the worrisome increase in global anti-Semitism, said ICJ President Dr. Jürgen Bühler. We want to help every Jewish family we can to return to their historic homeland in Eretz Israel. Thus, we are greatly pleased and honoured to support this latest group of Jews making Aliyah from Britain. Hello, John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believe in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Amen to that. The next one is IDF exposes Hamas starvation campaign. Most alleged malnutrition deaths were caused by pre-existing conditions. IDF, Israel Defense Forces on Tuesday released new information indicating that reports of widespread starvation in the Gaza Strip are part of a consecrated campaign by the Hamas terrorist organization aiming to increase international pressure on Israel. Hamas starvation campaign is a coordinated effort to mislead the public, the IDF wrote on X. Although a thorough review by the defense establishment exposed how Hamas is misrepresenting deaths from the pre-existing medical conditions as malnutrition to advance their political agenda. In recent weeks, the Hamas-led Gaza Health Ministry has reported a sharp rise in the number of deaths by starvation, while media outlets published horrified pictures of children who are allegedly severely malnourished. According to the IDF, Israel's COGAT, Coordination of Government Activities in the Territories, an in-depth investigation of Hamas claims revealed a significant gap between the numbers of deaths reportedly caused by malnutrition and the number of such cases that were documented and publicly identified in the media and social networks. The review showed that starting July, there was a notable rise in reported deaths due to malnutrition, with the claim number for January 133, more than doubling the claim number of such cases for the entire duration of the war, 66. However, the Gaza Health Ministry stopped releasing the names of the dead as it had done before, with only several personal identities of alleged deaths being published by the media outlets. The inconsistency between the statistical reports and the personal reports cast doubt on the credibility, the IDF wrote. The investigation also showed several more examples of children with genetic diseases whose pictures were used to accuse Israel of intentional starvation. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu presented three such examples during a press conference this week. The IDF and Kojat presented two more examples that cast a picture of 4-year-old Abdullah Hani Mohammed Abu Jakarka. A Kogat review found that he suffered from genetic diseases causing vitamin and mineral deficiencies, osteoporosis and bone thinning, a hereditary illness that also affected other family members. 4 months before the outbreak of the war, family members. 4 months before the outbreak of the war, the child travelled with mother with Israel approval to receive medical treatment at Al-Masaka Hospital in East Jerusalem. Oh, I thought it was Turkey, but it was East Jerusalem. Wow, that's even better. So Israel treated them. The IDF also said that the photo of the 27-year-old Karim Khalid Mustafa al-Jamal was circulated with reports that he died from malnutrition. The Israel Security System Review found that Karim had suffered since childhood from muscular dystrophy and the partial paralysis leading to swallowing difficulties. That was a chronic medical condition unrelated to the general nutritional starvation in Gaza. The IDF stated the IDF determined that these documents cases do not represent the general state of the population in the Gaza Strip, but rather actively portrays extreme cases involving underlying illnesses. Hamas cynically exploits tragic images and misuses them for a false and timid time propaganda campaign aimed at generating pressure and creating negative public opinion against Israel. We will continue working to improve the humanitarian response in Gaza in cooperation with the international community while rejecting allegations of famine in the Gaza Strip, Kojat found. So as we're seeing there, it doesn't look like there is much starvation in Gaza. Yes, I'm sure there's some, but for now I think it's going well and Israel's getting through it. They've got 75% control over Gaza and they're looking to take the last part so that they can possibly find their own people and bring them back safely. The next news is France stopped renewing work visas for Al security staff amid strained Israel tax. Sorry, I'll say it again in case I was interrupted there. France stops renewing work visas for Al security staff amid strained Israel ties. For the last 6 months, French authorities have stopped renewing work visas for security guards working for the Israeli airline company El Al. According to Why Not News report on Monday, The situation now leaves Israel's security guards with two options: return to Israel or remain in France without a valid work visa. Although not explicitly stated, the move by the French authorities is widely seen as a further escalation in the already strained diplomatic relations between Paris and Jerusalem amid the ongoing war against Hamas in Israel. Sorry, in Gaza. In the part since 6 months, in the past 6 months, none of the employees whose work visas expired have received renewals as El Al flight security guard based in Paris told Ynet News. This has never happened before and no one has been granted new approvals. It seems they are trying to end the employment of El Al security personnel in France. The Israeli embassy in France is reportedly seeking a diplomatic resolution and has been in contact with relevant officials. The Israeli Foreign Ministry said that the matter is being handled by the embassy in coordination with the French Foreign Ministry. The French embassy in Tel Aviv, however, has so far declined to comment on these sensitive issues after already blasting France for several hostile moves toward Israel. The US Ambassador Mike Huckabee again criticized the country upon hearing the report. Yes, it ain't. So France said it ain't. So what happened to France? Last week, anti-Israel activists vandalized El Al Paris offices with graffiti, including the words genocide airline, referring to Israel's operations against the terrorist organization Hamas in Gaza. El Al views the incident with utmost seriousness and is working with French and Israeli authorities to address it. The airline said it in an official statement. We proudly carry Israel's flag on our plane tails and condemn all forms of violence, specifically those driven by anti-Semitism. French Transport Minister Philippe Tabarot condemned the anti-Semitic attack on the El Al office. Acts of hatred and anti-Semitism have no place in our republic, Tabarot wrote in a post on X. In June, France decided to block the display of Israeli weapons at the Paris Defense Expo due to the Gaza war. Like many Western nations, France has seen a dramatic increase in anti-Israel and anti-Jewish incidents since the Hamas October 7th massacre in 2023, which the French government officially opposes anti-Semitism. Many French Jews and friends of Israel believe that France's Middle East policy encouraged anti-Semitism at home and abroad. Last month, French President Emmanuel Macron announced France's intention to unilaterally recognize a Palestinian state at the upcoming UN General Assembly. In September, Israel and the United States have strongly criticized the French government move as a reward for Hamas. French Jewish leader Robert Urge echoed the view: "We see it as a recognition of the terrorist value of, the October 7th war," Hines argued, "and we're not the only ones to say it, because Hamas leaders say exactly the same thing 3 days ago. There is a very strong rise in anti-Semitism since October 7th. He said the extreme left have made Gaza a major political argument in their campaigns, and they're really pushing for the hate of Israel, and by the way, the hate of the Jews." And warned that many French Jews now feel increasingly unsafe and are therefore considering emigrating to Israel or other countries. "I don't know a family that is not speaking about it," he said. It's such sad times that we're living in, that these precious people would be thinking more of going to Israel than living where they are, where they've lived all their lives. But it's just, it might be terrible for the Jewish people to be in this hardship, but it is what God has wanted for a very long time. Because he said that first he would send the sheep, and that the sheep would shepherd them home. But for the ones it didn't want to be yoked, then they mostly moved towards the left, stopped believing in a God at all, were faith and religion went out the window. But there is hope, because that Messiah that you see behind me there, holding that wee baby, that is a sign of unconditional love and surrender. From the mouths of babes, the Bible says. Hello, MC2. Hello, MC2. Nice to see you. Hello, 1.963.R. Hello, Neptuna. The next one is Defence Minister and IDF chiefs clashed publicly over latest round of general appointments. After differences of opinion between the political echelon and the military brass over the future of the Gaza war, Defence Minister Israel Katz and IDF Chief Staff Lieutenant Eyal Zamir sparred publicly on Monday evening over the latest round of general appointments. Most observers view that the latest dispute as a continuation of the earlier clash, despite Katz having defended Samir, whom he had nominated as Army Chief. Katz also clashed with Samir's predecessor over nominations of high-ranking officers, often over their possible roles in the October 7th failures. The latest round of debate began on Monday afternoon when the Israel Defense Forces announced new appointments for Brigadier General, including several commanders of the brigades that have seen extensive combat in Gaza in recent months. The Defence Ministry then stated that the discussion over new assignments had been held without prior condition of agreement violating standard procedure. Therefore, the Defence Ministry does not intend to discuss or approve the appointments, whether or not they were publicly released, the ministry stated. Nevertheless, the Israel ministry issued an official announcement listing all of the appointments, noting that the discussion had been scheduled in advance. The IDF stated that the Chief of Staff is the sole authority to issue appointment orders for ranks of colonel and above. Only afterwards does the nomination go to the minister for approval or rejection. The Defence Ministry has doubled down, claiming that according to procedure the Army Chief must present the Defence Minister with a range of candidates for each role and consult with him before their approach and appointment. Iranian dissident pro-Israel activist survives violent attack at London rally for Israel hostages. Iranian dissident and pro-Israel activist Niak Korbani was attacked at a rally to highlight the plight of the Israeli hostages in London on Monday. Korbani, an anti-regime Iranian journalist living in the United Kingdom, has become a recognised figure in London, often standing alone in the sea of pro-Palestinian protesters, with his sign reminding the crowds that Hamas are terrorists. However, he was not alone yesterday. According to the Jewish news syndicate, thousands turned out in London for the large demonstration organised by Stop the Hate and supported by the Board of Deputy British Jews. The event, entitled No More Excuses, brought the Jewish community and allies together to demand the immediate release of the remaining 50 hostages being held by Hamas terrorist groups in Gaza. The rally also took aim at the British government, the United Nations and the Red Cross with the Stop the Hate, accusing them of being complicit in appeasing Hamas and ignoring the plight of the remaining hostages and families. The devil has touched everyone. Dan's go Gavail. I think the devil has touched every one of you Zionist supporters' hearts. Well, thank you for that comment. I'll take it to my prayers at night and pray for you that you will come to see the truth just as we have. High birth rates and education gaps among ultra-Orthodox population could endanger Israel's future, economist warns. Israel economist and Tel Aviv University professor Dan Ben David was warned that Israel's demographic trends, particularly high birth rates among the ultra-Orthodox Jewish Haredi population, could undermine the country's long-term stability and prosperity. If Israel does not halt the combination of high birth rates, inadequate education, and widespread workforce non-participation, the country risks its long-term survival, Ben David said, according to the Ynet News report. In 2022, the fertility rate among her term stood at approximately 6.5 children per woman. Wow. According to Israel's Central Bureau of Statistics, more than double the national birth rate and far above the OECD mean of around 1.5%. Israel's fertility rate is one of the highest in the developed world. Notably, the ultra-Orthodox and certain Arab communities are continuing most to population growth. However, these groups also face low male employment rates and levels of education comparable to third world countries. Ben David argues that the low level of formal education in these expanding sectors will with time will push Israel toward a weaker economy and capable of sustaining advanced health welfare or security systems. He previously called for mandatory state education standards for all children in Israel, including mathematics, science and English, and for the scaling back of welfare benefits, which he says disappointingly favour the Haredi sector. That's all that there that we need to know for today. I just leave it there with that few bits of Israeli news for today, and I just say Shalom, Maranatha, and Hallelujah.